We want to go ahead and get into maximum extension of knees, dorsiflexion of ankle by pointing the torso toward our head, inversion of ankle by pointing the soles of our feet in toward the midline, and then for this one, we want to go into abduction of the femurs of 45 degrees. We want to maintain retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat... Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to be your own therapist by demonstrating the top 5 Eldoa exercises for posture correction, and more specifically, I'm going to be teaching you how to correct an elevated pelvis. Before I get on with the exercises, I want to do a quick recap of what exactly an elevated pelvis is and why exactly you should care. An elevated pelvis, as the name implies, is when your pelvis is elevated toward one side. And if you have an elevated pelvis, what's going to happen is you're going to create an imbalance between the muscles that are responsible for elevation of the pelvis and the muscles that are responsible for depression of the pelvis. And if you don't address this, it can lead to things like low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, and foot pain. So you would want to address it immediately. And one of the ways in which we could address it would be to do some strengthening exercises for the muscles that are responsible for elevation of the pelvis, specifically on the depressed side. We did those a few days ago. I can include a link right up over here to the top 5 strengthening exercises for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis. And in that video, we covered these strengthening exercises for the quadratus lumborum, the iliocostalis, the longissimus, the transversal spinalis group, and the latissimus dorsi muscle. Once you've done those exercises, a terrific complement to those exercises would be to do some myofascial stretching exercises for the muscles that are responsible for elevation of the pelvis, specifically on the elevated side. We did those a few days ago as well. I'm going to include a link right up over here to the top 5 myofascial stretching exercises for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis. And in that video, we basically did the exact same muscles just on the opposite side. We did the stretching for the quadratus lumborum, iliocostalis, longissimus, the transversal spinalis group, and the latissimus dorsi. Let's say you've done the strengthening exercises, you've done the myofascial stretching, and you're still not seeing the benefits you would like to see. Well, a third problem that may arise is you may have nerve dysfunction to the nerves that are responsible for sending the signal to the muscles that are responsible for depression and elevation of the pelvis. And if you have any type of dysfunction to the nerve roots of the nerves that send the signal to those muscles, what's going to happen is the nerves are not going to be able to send the proper signal to the muscles to fire properly, and then that can limit blood flow and oxygen in the area. So what we could do to address that would be to do some Eldoa exercises. And for the Eldoas, we would want to do the Eldoas at the nerve roots that are responsible for sending the signal to the muscles that are responsible for pelvic elevation and depression. And when we look at the pelvic elevators and depressors, let's take a look at what muscles are involved. First, we have the quadratus lumborum. The quadratus lumborum is going to be innervated by the lumbar plexus, more specifically your T12, L1, L2, and L3 nerve roots. Then we have your iliocostalis. Your iliocostalis, that's going to be innervated by the dorsal rami of your lower cervical, thoracic, and upper lumbar spinal nerves. Then the longissimus, that's going to be innervated by the dorsal rami of your lower cervical and thoracic and lumbar spinal nerves. We have the transversal spinalis group, which is going to be innervated by the dorsal rami of the lower cervical and thoracic spinal nerves. And then lastly, we have the latissimus dorsi muscle. The latissimus dorsi muscle, that's going to be innervated by the thoracodorsal nerve, and more specifically, your C6, C7, and C8 nerve roots. So for today, I'm going to be taking you through the Eldoa exercises at those different nerve roots. And the reason the Eldoas are going to be so great is because if the reason for your nerve dysfunction is that you have compression to the nerve root, what's going to happen is, if we do an Eldoa, the whole purpose of an Eldoa is to create space within a joint. So if we create space within the joint, we can improve the nerve function of the nerve roots, and then the nerves are going to be able to send the proper signal to the muscles to fire properly, and that can improve blood flow and oxygen in the area, which is going to improve the function of the muscle and also decrease your symptoms of low back, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, and foot pain. So for today, I'm going to be taking you through some Eldoa exercises at those different nerve root segments, and the specific Eldoas I'm going to be taking you through are going to be the L2, L3 Eldoa, the L1, L2 Eldoa, the T8, T9 Eldoa, the C7, T1 Eldoa, and the C6, C7 Eldoa. So without further ado, here are the top 5 Eldoa exercises for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis. The first Eldoa exercise for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis is going to be the L2, L3 Eldoa. And for it, we're going to go ahead and get into a seated position. We want to go ahead and get into maximum extension of knees, dorsiflexion of ankle by pointing the torso toward our head, inversion of ankle by pointing the soles of our feet in toward the midline. And then for this one, we want to go into abduction of the femurs of 45 degrees. We want to maintain retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head up, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension with the arms, maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of shoulders, flex the shoulders to level of coronal plane, so biceps in line with the ear. We're going up with the palms, keeping those knees nice and straight, and this is the L2, L3 Eldoa. Next, the second Eldoa exercise for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis is going to be the L1, L2 Eldoa, and for it, very similar. The only things that are going to change is the amount of abduction and the amount of adduction in the arms. For this one, once again, we're in a seated position. We want maximum extension of knees, dorsiflexion of ankle, inversion of ankle, medial rotation of femurs. For this one, we're going to go into 20 degrees of abduction. We got retro version of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head up, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension with the arms, maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of shoulders, flex the shoulders to the level of coronal plane, so biceps in line with the ear, and then we're going to lower the arms to the level of the glenohumeral angle. If you don't know where that is, it's going to be anywhere from 90 to 135 degrees depending on everybody's morphology. For the average person, when your arms are fully extended and the palms at the level of your forehead or slightly higher, that's going to be the level of your glenohumeral angle. But once again, retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head up, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension with the arms. We're pressing away at the level of the glenohumeral angle, up with the crown of the head, and this is the L1, L2 LDOA. Next, the third LDOA exercise for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis is going to be the T8-T9 LDOA. For the T8-T9 LDOA, we want to take our heels and put them at the level of the ischial tuberosities. If you don't know where that is, make a fist. Roughly the width of one fist width is going to be the level of your ischial tuberosities. Then we're going to maximally flex our hips and knees until the lumbar spine starts to round. As soon as the lumbar spine starts to round, you're going to stop right there. Then, from here, we want to create maximum myofascial tension in the lower body by creating a lamina scat. We're going to do that by raising the big toe up, flattening the medial arch, going into external rotation of tibia, medial rotation of femur. We got retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head up, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension with the arms, maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of the shoulders, flex shoulders to level of coronal plane, so bicep in line with the ear. We're going up with the palms, up with the crown of the head, keeping those knees together, and that is the T8-T9 LDOA. Next, the fourth LDOA exercise for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis is going to be the C7-T1 LDOA. For the C7-T1 LDOA, we're going to get into a supine position, meaning you're going to be laying down on your back. You want to flex the hips and knees until the sacrum lifts up off the ground, and we're doing that to be able to relax the abdominal cavity. Then, from here, what we want to do is go into dorsiflexion of ankle by pointing the toes toward our head, eversion of ankles by pointing the soles of our feet away from each other. We want to go into retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head away, eyes looking down between our thighs with the dura mater under tension. Then, from here, what we want to do with the arms, we're going to go into maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of shoulders, flex shoulders to the level of coronal plane, so biceps in line with the ear, and then we're going to lower them to the level of the glenohumeral angle. We're pressing away at the level of the glenohumeral angle, and then at the head, we want to lift the head 1 millimeter off the ground, just enough that you could slide a piece of paper, no higher than that. But this is the C7-T1 LDOA. And last, the fifth and final LDOA exercise for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis is going to be the C6-C7 LDOA. For the C6-C7, it's almost identical. The only thing that's going to change is how high our head is off the ground and the level of our arms. We got maximum flexion of the knees until the sacrum lifts up off the ground to relax the abdominals, dorsiflexion of ankle, eversion of ankle, retroversion of pelvis, flat lumbar, flat thoracic, chin tucked in, crown head away, eyes looking down between our thighs to put the dura mater under tension with the arm, maximum extension of elbow and wrist, maximum external rotation of shoulders, flex shoulders to level of coronal plane, so biceps in line with the ear. Then we're going to go into maximum adduction by bringing the arms down toward our sides. Then at the head, for this one, what we want to do is we are going to lift our head 1 centimeter off the ground, so roughly the width of one fingertip. You're going to take a finger, put it over there, and we're going away with the crown, away with the coccyx in opposite direction, away with the palms, and this is the C6-C7 LDOA. And there you have it. Those were the top 5 LDOA exercises for posture correction to correct an elevated pelvis. If you have an elevated pelvis, or if you have issues with regard to low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, or foot pain, go ahead and give those exercises a try. And if you have given them a try, go ahead and drop your comments down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought of the exercises. In terms of the programming for the entire routine, the first thing that you would want to do is the strengthening exercises. And for the strengthening exercises, what we're going to do is 3 sets of 50 repetitions, and that's 5-0, not 1-5, for the muscles that are responsible for pelvic elevation on the depressed side. And then on the elevated side, we would only want to do 1 to 2 sets depending on the severity. If you have a very, very severe pelvic elevation, what's going to happen is you would want to do 3 sets of strengthening exercises on the depressed side and 1 set on the elevated side. And if you have a very, very mild elevation, then on the side that is depressed, you would do 3 sets and you would do 2 on the side that is elevated. And with these exercises, the reason we're going so high with the repetitions is because we're trying to elicit a postural change. And whenever we're trying to elicit a postural change, one of the most important things is going to be accumulating under time under tension. And if we do the typical 8 to 12 bodybuilding repetition rep range, we're not going to be able to accumulate that time under tension. So 3 sets of 50 repetitions on the depressed side for every 1 to 2 sets on the elevated side. Then, once you've done the strengthening exercises, the next thing we're going to do is the myofascial stretching exercises. For the myofascial stretching exercises, we are going to do 3 sets of a 30-second hold for the muscles that are responsible for pelvic elevation, specifically on the elevated side. And then on the side that is depressed, we're only going to do 1 to 2 sets. And same thing, depending on the severity, that's going to dictate whether we do 1 or 2 sets. If you have a very, very severe pelvic elevation, then for every 3 sets of stretches that you're going to do on the elevated side, you would want to do 1 set on the depressed side. And if you have a very, very mild elevation of the pelvis, then we would do the opposite. So we would do 3 sets on the elevated side and 2 sets on the depressed side. And once again, because we're trying to elicit that postural change, we want to go ahead and do these exercises every single day, because if we only do them once a week or once a month, you're not going to be able to see the true benefit of the exercises. So 3 sets of a 30-second hold on the elevated side and 1 to 2 on the depressed side. And then once you've done the strengthening and you've done the stretching, the last thing you want to do is finish off with the Eldoa exercises. For the Eldoa exercises, you would want to go ahead and do 1 set of a 60-second hold for each of the Eldoa postures, and that's 60 seconds from the time you get into the final posture, not 60 seconds from the time that you start to get set up. And it should feel like you're going all out for that entire minute. It should not feel easy. If it feels easy, you're probably not doing it correctly. But that's the program. Strengthening exercises first, then the stretches, and then the Eldoa exercises. If you have any questions at all with regard to anything that you saw over the course of the last week, go ahead and ask your questions down in the comment section so I can help you guys out. But that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.